All right, this is show number 117, and tonight we have returning to us Ben Hartley, who, Ben, I should have looked this up before we started. Can't remember exactly how long ago it was and what show number you're on, but I remember it was at least maybe a year ago that you were on, and showed some of your fantastic photos back then. I have some of them to show now, probably not so much to talk about them, just kind of play in the background, but we'll show some of those. And recently on Facebook, I want to go ahead and get this out of the way. You and your wife, Les, had a awesome announcement, and I'm going to try and get it ready. Wrong one. So that we can show it. But awesome announcement, and not just the announcement, but the way you did it is what's so special. If I can ever get it. Here we go. Is you guys are expecting a child coming up soon. And
we are.
Yes, and congratulations on that. But the creativity of what you did here is awesome.
Thanks. I think my parents wished I would have announced it in a better way.
Did they find out this way?
No, they did not find out that way. That would have just been cruel. No, I think they were excited to share. However, we were going to announce it to all their friends and family, and then we did this. So we put them in a sticky situation, but we wanted to have fun with it, you know. Plus, it wasn't necessarily planned. It all just kind of made sense. And Leslie looks a lot like Katherine Heigl, so.
No, and you wearing the same shirt, I think, as Seth Rogen was in the movie. It's very close to it. Not the exact same shirt. I mean, you didn't take it off of him, but I'm going to show the original thing from the movie Knocked Up. If you haven't seen the movie Knocked Up, it's actually a hilarious movie. And let me see if I can get that here just a second. Nope. There you go. That was the original of what Seth Rogen. Yeah, that shirt is so close to what. Yeah, maybe the exact same shirt.
Photoshop magic happening there, Mike.
Oh, okay.
Just a little bit. I just took his stripes and just cloned those stripes onto my white shirt.
Well, you did a great job of it. But I was going in the pre-show. I was kind of talking about this with you and how your wife mimicked even the hands. How it's doing the general expression on the face. You're right. She does look a lot like her. I can see that in her. But a very creative, way to announce it, and something that actually, I don't know if you've thought about this. Something that could actually be used with clients. To recreate different movie scenes, movie posters, or something like that.
There's a photographer who, his name is escaping me right now, but who was doing those for weddings and engagements. Was taking famous movie posters and recreating them with his clients, every little detail, all the exact lighting. It was really extensive. So someone else is doing it. I'm sure a quick Google search would give you some results. But get him on the show next. I think that'd be a great person.
That's a great idea. I need to look him up. But even if somebody else is doing it, and it's hard to do anything that somebody has not done before, it's definitely not widespread because I'm not seeing it everywhere. I would think that maybe after somebody saw yours, they're going, "That's a great idea. I need to do that now." Not maybe the exact same poster, but something like that.
Like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, Jurassic Park or something. Okay, so the last time you were on, if somebody who's not didn't watch that or is new to the show since then, won't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because you did rebrand a little bit from your website, what it was, into what you have now, the new name brand. And some people may not know your background and different things about you.
Yeah, fantastic. So again, my name is Ben Hartley. I am a co-owner of Style and Story Creative. We exclusively shoot weddings. Apart from that, we also own a photo booth company on the side, just a little thing there, Insta-style photo booth. And then recently, I'm founder of sixfigurephotography.org. It's going to be a site dedicated to teaching you how to make things look good and earn more money than you thought possible with photography. And I say make things look good because I don't just mean photos, but I mean photography and video, but also brand identity, website, all that stuff. Let's make things look good. So that's a bit about myself. in a nutshell.
Okay, and I'm actually streaming some of the photos as we talk about this. Some of the ones I just picked off your website, which there's lots of them on there. They're fantastic, and like I say with each show, I'm streaming at reduced quality. So if you want to see the real quality that Ben and Les, and you guys have a partner too, right?
Yeah, so we have 4 full-time photographers here. There's myself and my wife, and then we have Ben and Lacey.
Ben and Lacey, really wow!
Confusing. We have Ben and Leslie and Ben and Lacey.
that's something. Well, so I'm showing photos from your site. I don't want to say who did them. I don't know who did them. It could be you, could be the other Ben, or it could be somebody. But from your site, and there's a lot of good ones on there. So I would recommend going out to their site, taking a look at them. I'll have the links to that, so you can go and look at them and awesome. See the great quality that's on the website. All right, Ben. So you started this site called Six Figure Photography, and it just started. You just started. I looked at it, and I think right now you just have a link to like ask or join a mailing list, or what is it happening there?
So currently, right now, the site is not live. Okay. So right now, if you go to sixfigurephotography.org, you're going to see a place where you can enter your email address, and you'll be notified when we actually launch the site and go live with it. Also doing so is going to enter you into an opportunity to have a one-on-one mentoring time with us. And so we're going to pick three subscribers from that and do some mentoring. And, really talk about what it is that you need to talk about. So we'll be launching the site here. Oh goodness. T minus X days. I mean, it really is dependent on just building the right following that we need, and so just trying to get the word out there, and we'll make all that information accessible and free to everyone.
Okay, and the mentoring sessions, what are you thinking about doing there?
Yeah, great question. So we currently offer 2 different forms of mentoring sessions. We do. In an ideal world, in-person mentoring sessions where, come on by and let's actually meet face-to-face and talk and mentor. But that's not always the case for everyone, right? I'm in Ohio, and what happens when you're not in Ohio?
Right.
So also we do Skype mentor sessions as well. So really, we will craft the mentoring session to the individual. Right, there's no one size fits all. This is why I have a hard time with large workshops, is because someone's either getting left behind or they're just way far ahead at different chapters of a workshop. And so it's nice to be able to really hone something specific to the needs of an individual. So prior to the workshop, there'd be a few consultations and meetings that would actually happen before we even get into it all to see what it is that we're going to get into.
That is so true. If you ever take any kind of workshop or a training class, maybe you've taken a training class at work that had nothing to do with photography, or you took a photography workshop or anything like that, you're right in that generally you have people who are way ahead, who's like, all right, this is boring, I know all this stuff, get to the good thing. Or you have people who are totally lost and are like, slow down, I don't know what you're talking about. And if you have a large enough work group or meeting or whatever it is, you have people at both angles, whatever it is, both points. And so you're right in that the people in the middle are maybe, depends on where you're at in the middle. It's all over the place. And maybe you're good. Hey, they did ask a good question. I'm good. Slow down. But then you got people who are going the other way. So, and I've been in those kind of things too, where it's like, good God, come on, let's move. This is going too slow. One-on-one is if you can do it, if it's a class where you can afford to do one-on-one, it's so much better because now its tone is geared just to me. And it's going to go just as fast as I want it to go. Mm-hmm. Very good. So what type of things are you thinking about covering in this? This is not going to be how do I shoot my DSLR that I just picked up type thing? Is this a beginner class or more advanced class, or what are...
So when you say class, are you talking about the mentoring, or are you talking about the website? The
mentoring.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's going to be honed to that individual. But I'd be lying if I said I really hope that it's not how do I work my DSLR.
How do I get out of auto?
we do the things that I feel like I specialize in, that like I feel like I have a voice that I can talk about, that I can teach on, that I can help even advanced people grow in, is in terms of lighting, particularly with off-camera lighting and mixing ambient and off-camera on a day. It has to do, that'd be one avenue. The second is creating a sustainable, successful business. Sustainable is key word. And so getting into what that means, and I know that's a whole other group of avenues that you could go down. And then the third is really specifically to weddings, and it's getting into prices and workflow on a day and posing and scheduling of weddings and relating to clients and all that stuff. But honestly, I really hope that it's not a bunch about just working your camera, because honestly, I'm going to charge you too much, and you should go. You should go somewhere else for that, right? If you need something really specialized and advanced, and you need to get to that next level, then it really makes sense. But if it's just how to work your camera, you should Google it.
True, very true. And actually, I've been thinking of starting a beginner's podcast for that person who just got their DSLR, and doing something along those lines. But you mentioned how to turn it in. I think you mentioned, or I heard this, how to turn it into a business, how to turn your hobby into a business. And that's one of the things I want to talk to you about tonight, because it's a question we hear often, and I'm thinking of a specific person that we have in our Facebook group who is battling that right now. And I don't know if you have seen this, Tim. Stephen, not Stephen Riley, the train photographer, but another Stephen, is one of those people who he has a day job. It's paying the bills right now, but he really would like to take his photography to the next level and do it full time. And I would love to talk to you tonight about, how does someone go from the comfort of that day job, the predictable paycheck, the health insurance, all those things, and then eventually turn it into their hobby of photography into a business of photography. And before you answer that, just, I know that like any profession, there's success and there's failures. And there's people who are struggling, and there's people who are doing very well. And I'm not going to ask you how much you make, but I know I've recently talked to somebody who's been in a show before. I can't say their name or even what male or female, so you don't have any hints here. But somebody who's on the show who has a studio, and they just for the first time broke $1 million in annual sales. Now it's not a one-person studio; they have multiple photographers, but they just broke $1 million in sales for the year, and that is fantastic. It shows you that there's still money to be made in this profession, and it's still a healthy profession for the ones who are going to work for it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to tell you tonight, or Ben's not going to tell you how to turn your weekend hobby into $1 million business.
If he could, Ben, if you could, I'd be quitting my job now.
Yeah, I'd be right there with you, Tim. And Mike and Tim's, or Tim and Mike's studio.
Either or. If it's $1 million, you can have your name first.
Your name can come before his for all he cares.
All right. So with that set up, what do you have to say about turning your hobby into a business?
It's a great question, and it's not a simple one. I feel like to just straight up answer. I don't think it's a do X, Y, and Z, and then bam, you're good to go. I think that there's a lot of actually just internal processing that you have to have, and you have to weigh out these things for your life. When Les and I made this transition, it was not an easy decision. I was working full-time as a graphic designer, and just like it sounds like the guy who you're referring to, who follows on the blog, had health insurance, was making a very consistent, decent enough income, and we have to evaluate it. And so that's, I guess, where I would start, is encouraging you to weigh the pros and the cons. Like, honestly, is it worth it for you to go full time? And so for us, we actually made a list. Maybe that sounds childish to make a pro and con list, but I think it's important. This is like a huge life decision, and there are serious risks involved. And so I'd love to even walk you through some of the thoughts that we evaluated when we were in that process. Is
Yeah,
that cool?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So, so first off, is it worth it, right? So the negatives, the risks of going full time, and you already said this, is it simply could fail.
Yeah.
Like it could, and can you handle that? Like, what would that mean for you? And can you place that burden on not just your shoulders, but also your family's? When my wife and I went and made that transition, it was just her and I. We didn't have a family beneath us or anything like that, and so failure was okay. like worst case scenario, we go full time and we fail. I'll get a job, you know, doing whatever I need to do. Move into parents' house. Who cares? We'll figure it out. But you have to recognize like that it could fail. The second thing is that it could be more work than it's worth. Like I see all these photographers who I think they're artists and they're passionate and they love the idea of being a full-time photographer, but then they make that step to go full-time and they're just running themselves dry just to try to keep up and to try to make ends meet and to try to keep this ship afloat. And if that's what's happening, then it's not worth it. I feel like the purpose of having your own business and running a job is to have something that makes your life better and more enjoyable. And so if you're working 14 hours a day, 7 days a week to try to keep it up, you know.
But it is going to take some work. I imagine you and Les work quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly will take work. But there has to be a plan. There has to be a tipping point where, I mean, honestly, Mike, like if I was just going 14 hours a day just to try to stay afloat, like there's no point really. I mean, in having this thing, like I would rather just do it on the side, enjoy it, work normal 9 to 5 hours and come home after work and not carry the burden and the weight on my shoulders and the responsibility. I mean, there's a lot of things that I would rather not do if that was the case, you know?
Mm-hmm. You know, I don't have a professional photography career. I do work for a company. But one of the things I tell my people is, you know, while I care for all of you, no one cares about your career more than you. And now, Ben, as you are the owner of your business, definitely nobody cares more about your career than you. You know, I'm sure your wife does. That's a little bit different there. But you know what I mean there is no one cares more about it than you. No one cares more about your business than the people who own the business.
Yeah.
And so it will take some work. You mentioned the creatives, the ones who are just in love with photography. I've often heard from every successful photographer we've had on the show, and I believe we mentioned this last time you were on, is the business side of it is what a lot of these creatives forget. And that you can be the greatest photographer, but the business side of this is something you have to focus on.
Absolutely. So I started off as an art major in college. And I should say I didn't just start off as that. Like that was what I graduated with. I was an oil painter. And of course, as an oil painter, all I heard through my entire college, through dating Leslie, through everything is a starving artist, a starving artist. And I think it's bull. I wasn't a starving artist. I've never been a starving artist. Even when I was an oil painter, I recognized that at least from there's a business side of things. I'm going to make paintings that are going to sell. Hopefully they're going to be paintings that I'm going to love doing, which they were. But you're right. There's always a business side to it, and this is going back to that. It could be more work than it's worth. Is really evaluating that and trying to look into the future and see if you can actually create something that is sustainable on its own and not just sustainable but hopefully scalable, right? Because I think those are the most successful businesses are ones that are scalable. We can talk about that a little bit more if you want me to explain it further, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's where you have two other couples or two. How many other people do you have in your studio now?
So we have 4 photographers here.
Including you and Les?
Say that again?
Including you and Les?
Including us, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we also work with a few videographers in the city as well, just through contracting and photo booth operators and that kind of stuff.
I would think that right there, I'm sure you did for multiple reasons, but one of the things is, eventually, Ben, you get sick. You have the flu, something happens, and you can't go shoot a wedding. And having these 2 other photographers there gives your business stability, in that bride who booked with y'all will still get her wedding shot, no matter what's happening with you.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there certainly are those benefits to it. I mean, the devil's advocate is what happens when we're both booked on that date.
That's true. That's true. Because you want to be booked as much as possible.
Of course, yeah. But those are always, I mean, you have to face that with anything. But there is a number of benefits to it. To be honest, one of the biggest ones is just working with really great people. Being a wedding photographer can be really lonely. Like, you just sit at home all day, like editing in this little box. And it's something that I missed from the design job that I used to work at, was being in a space with 4 other creatives, and we're all on board, and we're all in it together, and we're all working on a project. And we're feeding off each other, and there's energy that comes from that. And I think our clients respond to that energy. I think our work improves because of it. But there's a number of great benefits, and they're not contracted. It's not like they have their own thing on the side, and we're pulling them in as associates. We value having them be a part of our team. Yeah.
Okay, very good. I probably got you off track there a little bit. Sorry.
Yeah, a little bit. The other, okay, so we're talking about evaluating. Is it worth it to go full time? Yeah. A huge thing that is a risk involved is the heavy competition that we face right now.
Absolutely.
And it's massive. The amount of competition that exists within the photography world is kind of daunting. It's kind of scary. And so coming up with a plan to stand out, like, how are you going to separate yourself from the masses? And there are masses. Like, every day there's a new news feed that pops up. I just started J&J photography, like my page. And that's cool. I love it. I'm totally in support of it. But something has to happen that will separate you.
Yeah.
And then the last one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I don't want to throw you off.
Go ahead. I was just going to say the last one is, where do you begin? Because, again, we get back to this idea of, I was just an art major. I was not a business major. I didn't study this stuff. And it's daunting when you start to think about, how do you navigate actually starting a business? Like, do you become an LLC? Are you a sole proprietor? Or what are you? Do you have to file for that? At what point? Taxes. And then when you start getting into, like, payroll, and it really is a daunting thing. And so I think that's just another aspect of, like, where do you begin? So anyhow, those are my list of risks and complications that come into it when you begin to answer this question, or try to answer this question. But now I want to talk about, like, the rewards.
Yes.
Like, what are the benefits? Because we'll stop being negative, Did you want to address anything from risks?
The government does like its taxes. So you mentioned taxes. Do not. That's a good way to kill your business and ruin your life, is to mess up your taxes. So, while we all wish we could pay less in taxes, make sure that you are, honest as you can be. I imagine most people fudge a little bit, but, pay those taxes. If you ever get into a situation where you're doing payroll taxes, that they will close you down fast if you don't pay payroll taxes. So do that.
And it's one of the most deceiving things, actually, about about small general. But in particular, I feel like we as wedding photographers do this all the time, where we book a bride, let's just throw out the number $1,500, right?
Yeah.
We book a $1,500 ride, and we're like, "OMG, I just made $1,500." You like call your friends and you call your family, and I'm like, "Mom, I just made $1,500." And then, you know, by the end of the year, if you actually look at what occurred, you actually made like 600. And I think that we see wedding photography or whatever it is, and through rose-colored glasses all the time, where we like lie to ourselves and we ignore the fact that there's deliverables, that there's marketing, that there's our own like hourly time that you have to put a value on. There's editing costs. I mean, there's all these things, and then bam, there's taxes. Even if you don't have employees under you, there's that huge thing called taxes. And so we actually end up seeing, you know, in a $1,500 situation, you're probably going to walk away with circa 600. And it's important to be honest with yourself and to see that for what it is, because I didn't when I first started. I looked at this and I was like, I'm going to make $1,500 every weekend. I'm not going to work during the week. I'm only going to work 1 day a week. And I'll have January, February, March off. I'm going to, you know, like all these things, and it's just totally
You forgot about the editing. You forgot about all the other stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You forgot about getting that wedding every weekend.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, what you may want to think about, not you, but somebody who's starting, is, you know, especially when you get that $1,500 wedding or whatever you're charging, is making yourself a spreadsheet or getting some like QuickBooks or something like that. QuickBooks is fairly cheap. If that's a little too complicated for you, you know, maybe like a Google Doc spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet, something where you track your income and track your expenses, and then, you know, maybe even track your hours worked. As a little side thing, because you know, at that point let's say you made your $1,500 minus your expenses, you came out with the 600 you talked about, but it took you, you know, X number of hours to do this. You realize I only made $10 an hour, or maybe you made $20 an hour, whatever it is, and then you got to evaluate: is that what I can live off of? Was that where I need to be? And maybe it's not day one, and I want to come back around to pricing later on afterwards. But there's a question out in chat I want to get to before you go to the benefits, or what you had a different term for it.
I mean, rewards.
Rewards,
right?
yes.
Like, the rewards of going full-time.
Okay, Dean asked, maybe I should just read it word for word. Ben, when you went full-time as a pro, did you see improvement in the quality of your work? Also, I'm afraid that the added financial burden and pressure of having to pay the bills, quotes, will squelch creativity and lead to factory mentality. So I guess, yeah, shooting the same thing everybody else does. Basically, how do you keep it fresh? So the first question is, did you see any improvement in your work when you went full time?
That's a really great question. I'm going to answer this question the same way that a mentor of mine once talked about relationships in regards to marriage. And so just work with me on this analogy here.
I got you.
All right. And so in college, I had a mentor. And one of the things that was discussed was this idea of marriage, that marriage will not make a relationship successful. Marriage will not, proposing to a girl will not like suddenly make it all perfect. It needs to be successful. Marriage is just like the consummation of that. It's like validating that this is working, that this is successful, and I think the same thing within business. So you don't decide to go full-time and hoping that when you do this, that suddenly now your work will improve, that your following will improve. I mean, obviously you have more time to dedicate, and so your time will affect that. But no, I mean, your work needs to be there. Like, it needs to already be successful before you go full time. Does that analogy make sense? Did that land?
Absolutely. I got that too. We all knew people in more so hopefully in high school and college that didn't understand that the wedding and the girlfriend thing. If I just propose to her, everything will straighten up. And sometimes it's the other way, the girl with the boy. But yes, I see what you're saying. Is going pro, going full time is not going to make your photography all of a sudden become good if it wasn't already there.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's terrifying. If your work is not good, do not go full time.
and I'll go back to the second part of his question. But Danielle's going back to the statement that we were making about adding up your money made minus your expenses divided by number of hours you worked. She figured it up after her first year, and she was making $4 an hour. She could have done better at Walmart working as a whatever there is at Walmart.
Yeah, it's depressing. And this, I mean. Okay, so if there's a plan, I mean, this gets back to like, you will have to work hard, right? It's not like it just suddenly will happen. You will have to work through that and to grow from that. But you have to have a plan. Like, you can't just stay there, you know? And so anyhow, I started out somewhere along there as well. And so it's not like I guess it's not the worst thing in the world, you know. It's just that you need to grow through it, and you need to have a plan to go through it. And I think the first step is exactly what she did: is you have to run the numbers. You need to take off the rose-colored sunglasses. Say this happened to sunglasses. The rose-colored glasses that you're wearing, and see it for what it is. Otherwise, you will just stay there at $40 an hour, thinking that this is just how it is. This is life as a photographer. This just must be what others do, and so I'll just keep along this path. Yeah.
Yep. And Dean, very true. And Dean's second part of the question, and I'll paraphrase it here, was did you feel maybe at the beginning that the pressure of having to pay the bills with your business, your photography business, was going to limit your creative style? That, okay, I got to make sure I get the shots I know the bride is going to buy. I got to make sure I stay within these boundaries because these are the money shots. Where if you were a little more comfortable, and I'm just making this up, I don't know if this is exactly what I meant, and I'm not a pro, so I'm kind of making this stuff up. But if you were maybe a little more successful, you would feel a little more creative freedom to, I'll try something. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I got enough buffer in my business here that I'm not going to worry about it. Do you know what I'm saying there? That
yeah. I feel like this will take us on a rabbit trail, but it's a rabbit trail I'd love to go down, and that's quite all right.
Okay.
So this question is there's a lot going on with it, but goodness, I wish I could read it. Is it here somewhere that I can read or no?
Are you on the live page? On the jpeg2RAW.com/live.
I'll just tackle it and just.
I want me to read it word for word for you instead of my paraphrase.
Yeah, please.
I'll read it word for word instead of my paraphrase. Also, I'm afraid that the added financial burden and pressure of having to pay the bills will squelch creativity and lead to factory mentality. Basically, how do you keep it fresh?
I'm just reading it right now.
Okay.
Just here. So this gets back to this idea of heavy competition. Let's start there.
Okay.
There's a very heavy competition, and your work has to be set apart. There has to be something new happening. And so, how do you separate yourself from the crowd? And that's something that we've believed in from the very beginning, and I think it's the only thing that's really allowed us to succeed, is the fact that we're not doing what everyone else is doing. We're not doing the factory thing. I think if we were to, we would lose business. And it also has to get into this idea of targeting the right client. And so the last time I was on here, I'm going to give you this quick story. The last time I was on here, there was an image in our portfolio that the bride and groom were out of focus. The background was in focus or something. It was a picture we took in Hawaii. It's one of my favorites. And somebody on the chat hopped on and was like,
I remember
OMG, there's a messed up portfolio. Like, why is this picture in there? And it's in there because I love it. It's in there because I think it's interesting. It's in there because I want our brides to know what they're getting into. I want them to actually know, and I want to pre-qualify our couples. I want them to reach out to us expecting that we're going to do stuff that's that is different, that to us is more interesting. So anyhow, to get back to answering that question, no, I think that's the only thing that is made us successful. It's the fact that we've rejected the idea of doing it the way that we all think it's supposed to be done, or that the bride thinks it's supposed to be done. Hopefully I answered that in a decent enough way.
I think so. And I remember that when you were on the show before and somebody saying something about the out of focus image. I think if you had a website where all of your photos were out of focus and were not edited very well, somebody may think, I don't think Ben knows what he's doing. He's not doing this right. But you know, for me, when I looked at it, and I think I even noticed when I was looking through the website today, I saw one like that. It's not a mistake. You intentionally did this as a creative style, and you can see when you look through, and we were streaming some of them earlier, gorgeous photos of various styles that you have on your website, that if I'm a bride coming through, it kind of gives me an idea, or a groom coming through, it gives me an idea, oh, this is a great idea. I like this one. Let's do something like that, or some different way. So having that variety on your site helps out too. You know, if all you had was every shot was exactly the same and perfect focus and everything else, it's just going to blend together. Well, why do you need 20 shots like that on your site? One will do. I think the variety is great.
I want to get back also to her question. I feel like I've got a little bit of a better understanding as I keep rereading it.
And that was Dean.
So she's
that's a guy.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay.
Having to pay the bills, adding on this idea of having to pay the bills, adding pressure on you that. And the pressure would lead to a factory mentality. And so I'm going to take that and interpret it a little bit further. And when you say factory mentality, one thing that I think a lot of people fear is I have bills to pay. I'm now full-time at this. And I need to just take any job and every job that I get. And I think that's the factory mentality of like, okay, I started off as a wedding photographer, but now I'm full-time. Crap. You need your baby's pictures taken? Cool. Okay, I can do that. You need your basketball game at a high school. I can do that. I'm there. I'm your guy. And you start taking on all this work just because, well, out of fear, you take on work. And I think that's maybe what she's talking about. And so I think that there has to be, first off, I want to say this. We felt that. As soon as we went full-time, we did one baby shoot, we did one family shoot, and it was the worst thing that I've ever done. And we just vowed from that moment that we would not take on any other gig. Any other gig. We were going to be solely wedding photographers. It was a commitment that we made just with ourselves, and it took confidence. And this is something that this is going to bring me to my number one point. If you are going to go full-time with photography, you must have confidence. Like I wholeheartedly mean that. If you do not have confidence, you will, out of fear, embrace a factory mentality. Out of fear, you will find yourself 10 years down the road still at a high school basketball game taking pictures. There's nothing wrong with taking pictures at high school basketball games. I would just never do it. And you will find yourself essentially, doing the things that you don't want to do. And so you have to have confidence. You have to. And there's benefits that come with it. And so by not taking on a factory mentality, by saying to ourselves and our clients, we are going to do only weddings. We're not going to do 60 a year. We're going to do 20 a year, right? We communicated to them that we are the best of the best. When you need your wedding pictures taken, don't go to the jack of all trades because they are the specialists. I mean, when somebody does everything in some person's mind, your client's mind, you do nothing. If you're doing babies and maternity and family, right? And so it really did benefit us by staying true to both our styles, but also just weddings. It really helped to set us apart within the marketplace of photographers as specialists.
That makes total sense. And you're not saying you have to be a wedding photographer. You're saying specialize. Find what you like to do, what you're good at. That could be infant photography. That could be that sports photographer. But find that, stick to it, become the best you are at it. And I would think, over time, if you you may want to then look at doing something else. But I think being the generalist up front is I agree. That sounds very reasonable to me. Being a generalist up front, you're going to find it more difficult than specializing. So you may have to turn down some of those jobs.
Absolutely.
What if
jobs you don't want to do?
What if you find out all of a sudden you're shooting every weekend at the basketball game, like you mentioned, and now you're so busy shooting those basketball games, making so little money, or the whatever other shoots, that you're not having time to go and track down the wedding clients or whatever you wanted to shoot instead, and you're not building that portfolio of those other things too.
It's a very slippery slope. It really is, and it's so tempting, and it really is, and it's tempting because of fear and because of even for me, again, I had that fear, but you have to reject. There's a book Seth Godin wrote called Lynchpin. He talks about your lizard brain, how we all have this lizard brain in us that just wants us to be average because average is safe and it is content and it isn't risky. And we have to deny our lizard brain. Sorry if I went off on a trail there.
And Danielle just posted out in chat. She did the exact thing you're talking about. She took on everything at the beginning when she first went. I'll read it. That's exactly how I feel. I am the sole provider of my family. I am also a nurse, but recently went full-time in photography, and I am completely panicking. I took on everything until about 8 weeks ago. I did the opposite and stopped doing weddings. I love doing portraits, but I also love my sports side so those are the two I won't give up. So yeah, you're not saying you have to do weddings. You just need to find something to specialize in. Yeah.
No, definitely. That's my own personal story. That's for me.
Right.
I feel like there's more people in the world that hate shooting weddings than there are photographers who enjoy it. So I am a minority here.
Yeah. No, but that's a good point, is to find something that you can specialize in, become great at, get a great portfolio, and that work you can show that work's going to help you get other jobs. So I've taken you way off track. We're supposed to go to the rewards because we did the what was the opposite of rewards?
Risks.
Risk,
but
yes.
I almost feel like
R&R. I got to remember R&R. Risk and rewards. Okay. So now what are the rewards?
So, I almost feel like, I'd love to just fly through the rewards and actually get right, I think, more into the meat of what your viewers, I think, would appreciate talking about. As far as, very tangibly, what are, I have 10 things that you should have in order, you should do before going full-time. And I think that would probably be more valuable to talk about. But I'll fly through it. I'm not going to break it down. Okay. But rewards for being a full-time photographer. You have freedom. This was huge for me. I lived in Toledo. I didn't want to live in Toledo because my job was keeping me there. I went full-time with photography, and I left Toledo. You have freedom. You can go places. There is a potential for better income. I was making $35K at my other job, and there's potential for greater income when you are a full-time photographer. You get to work in a flexible environment. And for me, I get to work with my wife in a flexible environment and my friends. That's a great benefit. You get to do what you love. You have a good chunk of the year that can be off if you're in weddings. January, February, as far as shooting goes, is really off. For us, this is becoming big. Now we have the potential to free up Leslie to stay home and be with our babies.
Yeah.
6 days out of the week, she can be here. That 7th day, she's shooting a wedding, but there's a lot of freedom that gets to come with that. The other one on my list is the joy of simply owning something. There is so much joy when you get to and I hear photographers say this all the time, my business is my baby, and it's so true. There's a joy in building something up and owning it. And my last reward is that, and it's funny because the previous list was the risks of going full time. Well, the last one on my reward is is that it is a risk. And this was actually one of the biggest rewards for me, was the fact that there was risk involved. I don't know if I'm a minority here in saying this, or maybe this is a man's mentality. I'll probably get heat for saying that right now. But I was kind of bored with this steady, stationary paycheck that was consistent. Everything was just kind of like the same, and there was no risk involved. And I wanted to know that if I worked crazy hard and if I built this thing up, that I'd be rewarded for it. I also wanted to know that if I didn't, it was on me, and I hated this idea of working as a cog in an industry where I was replaceable, that I could work crazy hard and not be rewarded for that particular action. And so the risk involved was actually really rewarding and then really motivating. And I think I thrive off of that. So anyhow, okay. Moving on.
Yeah, that's very good. Okay. So you wanted to go the list of 10 items?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, who knows? Is there 8? Is there 11? Is there 20? I've got a few here that I want to talk about that are things that you should have in order, things that we had in order before we went full-time. And I already said number 1 was confidence. Yeah. And it really is the number 1 thing. I think you have to have confidence. Number 2, and we've been talking about this already, is just a business plan. I mean, it sounds silly, but so many people, they just kind of jump in headlong thinking that it's all going to work out. But you need to run the numbers. And we've spoken about this, but I would encourage you to take a look, and this is the way that I would run the numbers, okay? What does run the numbers mean? So first, start with what do you need to live? Like, how much do you need to live on a monthly basis? Like groceries, your gas for driving, your rent, all that stuff, right? So start with what you need to live, and then how much more you want to make beyond that to put into savings or whatever it is that you want to do. And then simply run the numbers. Start calculating how many weddings would you need to shoot, at what amount, in order to hit that dollar. How many portrait sessions or sporting events or commercial shoots would you need to land in order to hit that amount? And then simply ask yourself, like, can you do it? Is that realistic? And I bet you'll find that it is. But you need to have a plan. You need to run the numbers.
Do you think you should be a little conservative when you're saying how many weddings do I need to shoot? I mean, thinking you can start out year 1 shooting, 40 weddings may be a little, overambitious.
Absolutely, and this gets into the previous question that had to do with going pro, and do you decide to go pro if you want your work to get better? You also don't decide to go pro if you want to book more weddings necessarily. I mean, you need to have a track record. So like the year that we went that year before, we did like 25. And I knew we did 25. I can pretty much guarantee we're going to do 25 this next year at the bare minimum. And so you need to have a track record. There needs to be some sort of evidence. At least I would advise that there be some sort of evidence before you just kind of jump in. But yeah, I think being conservative is a wise choice.
All right, so confidence is first. Have a business plan second. What's next?
Yeah, number 3, and I actually heard this from Justin and Mary, the photographers, another couple that do amazing work. I have great advice. And this is something that they talk a lot about, is having savings. And this was really important. So it was important for us personally because we had to tap into it. And so have savings in place before leaving your job and going full-time with photography. I think 6 months of rent and the necessity, when you going back to that number of the necessity of what you need to make in order to live, take that, the necessity, times it by 6, and that's what you should have in your savings before you go quitting your job right? You need to have something to fall back on, because what if your previous track record of you shot 25 weddings last year? I don't know. What if you don't get 25 this year? You get 20. So I think it's wise to have something in place to fall back on. It's a plan B.
Very good. Yep, and that is very important because that gives you some buffer. You're not panicking if you crap, I don't have anything scheduled for this weekend. You know, you're not getting desperate. You have a little bit of buffer there. So the savings is critical. And that's where a lot of businesses, not just photography, but a lot of businesses fail, is because they don't have enough buffer.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Making it through that first year is really where a lot of businesses fail. So you got to get past that first year. Not to say you're going to be successful if you get past it. Just that often is the hardest time.
Yeah, it's like 60% fail in the first year.
Yeah.
It kind of slows down. It just goes down to like 30% the next year. A little bit better. Number 4, I've already been saying, I tend to jump the gun all the time, is having a track record for the coming year. Having proof, having evidence, and it will help build confidence, right? If you have a track record, you should have the confidence to step out and actually do what you need to do. So this one we'll probably talk about for a little bit, is you have to charge enough.
Yeah.
You cannot do it if you're just doing weddings at $1,500 a wedding. You would have to. I think you would have to, if you're doing $1,500 a wedding, you would have to photograph 66 weddings a year, which there are only 52 weekends in a normal year. So you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to charge enough. And I don't know if this is where you want to start talking about pricing, but I think that there's a ton of photographers out there, wedding photographers, who charge $1,500 a wedding, and I have no clue how they do it. I have no clue what's going on behind the scenes. If it's a front for like a drug cartel company, I'm just kidding. But like something must be happening, and it's probably just because they're not full time, and that's fair.
That's right. Well,
when you're part time, building up your business, $1,500 a wedding makes sense.
What you never know about the other person is the rest of their life. You're right. Are they not full time? Do they have a spouse who's really funding the family? Do they inherit money and now they don't have to work? There's a lot of. Are they in massive debt? A lot of things like that you don't know. And if I just run the numbers, 52. If I do one every weekend, 52 times 1,500, that's 78,000. Now on the front end, you may think, I could live off 78,000, but I think you go back to point number 2 that you had, Ben, is the business plan, because that's not pure income. If you made 78,000, you got to at least pay taxes on it, even if you had 0 other expenses.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Go ahead.
No. You got to do that math that you had in number 2. So pricing is something that we get asked about all the time. So that's if you wanted to. Pricing is something that we have people ask about all the time. Everybody in my neck of the woods is charging $500 for a wedding. I'm getting turned down whenever I just want to get $1,500. What do I do? So what advice do you have on the pricing front?
My goodness. Well, it starts with a brand. And so you're, I guess, we have a very intentional approach and an intentional strategy. And it is our brand. So we are, I think within Columbus, maybe Ohio, I don't really know. We are probably one of the most expensive photographers as far as weddings go. And it is an intentional thing. Our brand is a high-end brand, and so it starts there. It starts with your branding, and there needs to be expectations that a bride already has in mind before seeing a price list. But I guess you may need to ask the question again, because I've gotten myself wrapped up in my head. So ask me one more time.
So something people struggle with, if their competition is charging a much lower rate than they are already charging, and they're losing business. What do I do to get those weddings every weekend or however often I'm wanting to shoot them, but yet even increase my price because I can't live off the price I'm already charging?
Yeah. So, goodness. This is going to be a tiny bit of a rabbit trail, and that's okay. So, in regards to pricing, in regards to any of that stuff, if you compete on price, you will lose. If you try to go lower than your competition, you will inevitably always lose, because when you do that, you might book a wedding, but you will never be able. You will just continue to book those clients, right? So let's say I started out at $1,000. My competition starts out at $900. Well, I better go down to $900 in order to book clients. When I do that, I book that wedding, I shoot it, I get referred now to all the other $900 clients. I then, because that's their friends, that's their following. $900 people flock together with other $900 people. It's kind of the way the world works. And so then next year I go to raise my prices, and I say I'm now $1,500. But now everyone who knows my work and who's interested in me are all $900 people. Yep. And yes, you will have anomalies in there, but it is a tricky thing. When you compete on price, you will lose, and you will get stuck there. And you will book more weddings, but you will make less money. Sure, you can shoot 52 weddings a weekend. 52 weddings a year. That would be every single weekend. But why? That sounds painful. That sounds awful. And you can do that if you charge very little. And so the trick begins to differentiate yourself from your competition. So we'll start with your work should be different than your competition. If everybody is doing all natural shots where they're backlit by the sun and they're exposing for the skin tones, which are in shadow, and it's just beautiful and elegant, that's cool, but you need to do something to stand out. So that's step number one, is your work has to be different and has to be worth it. Once you create work that is different, that other people aren't doing, you need to separate yourself through price. The standard here in the Columbus area, we're more than this, the standard, right? And it is intentional because I believe it, but also I want us to be separated even in that. Yes, we turn away weddings, left and right, 9 out of 10. But that one that we do book is going to be worth it. It's going to be an incredible day. It's going to be a perfect client for us. They're going to appreciate our work and value us. And then we're going to meet and be referred to other people that follow suit. And it kind of goes from there.
So if I can touch on a couple of things there. I think when you talked about your work, is you got to also have a place to present it. You know, social is so important these days. You need to have a Facebook presence or whatever other presence that you where your clients are. I mean, if they're on Instagram because you're shooting seniors, you need to be out on Instagram. You need to be where your clients are. So you got to have that. But you also have to have a web page to present this data. That is your portfolio. That is your front to a lot of clients. You're going to send a lot of clients there. It needs to sell you and have good quality. I've seen a lot of photographers who, I don't know, they look like their web page is from the 90s or something. It's really outdated. It's not very well, or it's a canned thing. You don't have to spend $100,000 on or $10,000 on a professional web page where you've hired somebody. But you got to have something decent that's going to show off your work in a good light, and you're going to be proud of that. Number two, I thought of an analogy, and anybody who knows me and watches the show knows I'm gonna hate saying this, because Tim, because I am not an Apple fan, and I know that a lot of people who watch the show is an Apple fan. But let's think about what they've done. So I'm gonna divorce myself from my feelings of Apple. No one would say they're the cheap player in any market they're in. They're not the cheap player in the phone market. They're not the cheap player in the PC market. They're not the cheap player in the tablet market. A lot of us would say they're overpriced in every market they're in. So they're losing sales all the time. In the PC market, they're 5 to 7% of the market. Very tiny percentage of that. But I think you'd also have a hard time saying they're not successful. I mean, they have taken that part of the market. They know their target audience. They're making a decent amount of money off of it. They're losing sales all the time because they're where they are priced. But they have a good quality product, and they're pricing it where they can make money. And I think if you look at, I'm losing sales to this $500 person on the wedding, you're going to lose those sales. But do you really?
And it's good.
Yeah. Like, do you really want those?
You do not want them, to be honest. Like if that's not your target client. Now, what if it is? Like, what if you're a big studio that has 15 photographers and you want to shoot, 100 weddings a year and divvy it up? Then yes, that is your target client. But it starts with asking yourself, what are your goals? What's realistic as far as the scale of your business? And then going after that person, and it is worth the wait.
I think it goes back to your business plan, because there's money. I talked about Apple, the person who owns the other 95% of the market, Microsoft. Whether you say they're, whatever you think of them, they're making money hand over fist too. There's money to be made. You just got to know how to do it within your target audience. All right, I got you off track, but let's see, where were we? Had confidence, having a business plan, savings, the track record, and then pricing, ensuring you're charging enough.
Yeah, so no debt on gear. This kind of gets back in a way to savings, but you should have no debt on photography gear. If you have debt on photography gear, to be honest, I'm going to get real harsh. If you have debt on photography gear, then you're not good enough. And you're not charging enough, you're not something enough. If you have debt on photography gear, something isn't lining up. Because you should be paying for your photography gear as you're making money, as you're bringing in income, or maybe you're just, I don't know, just your eyes are huge, and I don't know what I'm trying to say. I was going to say your eyes are too big for your mouth, but that's with food. But you just want everything. But I think honestly, I think that's a pretty big sign. If you have debt on gear, then something probably isn't working with your business, and you should reevaluate.
I bet that hits a lot of new photographers. They look at Ben's site and they go, wow, what lens do you use for that? Because I need that lens. And even as a photographer, sometimes forget it's not the lens, it's the person. The gear does play into it. But I think you get into this mentality of I need the gear to make the shot. And you'd be surprised at some of the, you wouldn't be, but a lot of people would be surprised. A lot of the photographers you see who are very successful don't use like 17 different lenses. They have 2 or 3 favorites, and that's pretty much it.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's okay if you have debt right now on gear. Just pay it off and then start thinking about going full time. But you don't want to go into full time with this further weight on your shoulders. It's going to add more fear to you. It's going to add more stress, and which will result in you taking work that you don't want to do. It'll result in you dropping your prices and kind of pigeonholing yourself. It'll result in a lot of negative things, so don't do it. All right, I know we're low on time. Cut me off, Mike, if you need to.
No, how many more do you have?
I got 3.
Okay, yeah, let's do those. And I got to tell you, this hour has gone by super fast. We got to have you back sometime, Ben.
I know, right? Thanks for having me. So file backup solution. Especially with weddings, you need to have a backup solution in mind, and you'll get more and more complex with your backup solution as you grow, but you need to have at least something in mind when you're protecting people's memories that are going to happen this one time, never again. Have a backup solution very quickly. This is a whole other hour to talk about. On site, we're shooting on 5D Mark IIIs, which shoot on 2 cards, one of which is creating a JPEG of the image. The other card is creating a RAW file of the image. All right. And so on site, as I'm shooting, I already have 2 duplicates of the picture. When we get home, we have them get backed up onto a Drobo which is a RAID system, and so that way there's redundancy across 5 drives. So if one of the drives fails, doesn't matter, it's on the other ones, and I can restore it instead of just if it was on one drive and that drive fails, you're out of luck. And then furthermore, those images on the Drobo then get backed up to our online backup site, which is backing up all of that. And then there is a off-site location of another physical drive that it gets duplicated to. I won't get much more detail than that. There you go.
Yeah, and there's nothing I've preached about more on this show than backing up, and yet I hear all the time photographers say, "Oh no, I've just lost everything." You will eventually lose everything. It's like getting pregnant. If you're not preventing, you're trying. If you're not back,
yeah, we were trying. We were just practicing, and
I wasn't talking about you, Ben. I'm saying in general. If you're not preventing, you're trying. If you're not backing up, you're trying to lose your files.
Yeah, backing up. And, was that a joke? No, just me. All right, so I digress. Here we go. So number 8 on our list after file backup is an accountant. Hire an accountant. We didn't our first year. And then the next year, when we were like so overwhelmed with it, when we did hire one the next year, it cost us more money in order to have him go back and fix all the errors and the problems and the mess that we created the first year trying to do it our own. Mm-hmm. And if we would have done it right in the first place, hire an accountant. It will save you so much time. It will save you money. Do it. And hire someone that you can actually have a relationship with. We actually hired a groom of ours. So we shot his wedding, and then we hired him as our accountant. And it's a pretty cool gig. I mean, we trust him. Yeah. And it really makes a difference when it has to do with your money.
Very good. One question before you move on to the next one is, and Mike Wren out in chat asked, who do you use for your offsite backup?
So we use Backblaze
for
offsite backup. They're very affordable. It's I think like less than $5 a month or something, and you can put in restrictions as far as what doesn't get backed up. So all of our JPEGs are getting backed up, but our raw CR2 files are not, because that would get insane and it would never get backed up online. And so you can actually put in there an exclusion to not back up raw CR2s, and I really appreciate that about CrashPlan.
About Backblaze.
I'm sorry, Backblaze.
I actually use CrashPlan. CrashPlan, Backblaze, Mosey, Carbonite, they're all really good. You use Backblaze, I use CrashPlan. You need to use one of those as long as you're. I looked at my bandwidth usage this month, and I'm up to 1 terabyte of bandwidth usage this month. Your provider may not let you use that much, so look at what you can do there. But you need to have some kind of offsite storage.
Yeah. Great question. Sorry, I got confused there.
Nope, that's okay.
You're right. There's a number of options. So,
all right.
Okay. Number 9. This gets into kind of back to the idea of confidence, but being a self-starter, like having drive. Because, Mike, you already said this. If you don't do it, no one else will. It is solely on your shoulders. And so you can't be that person that wakes up and is like, I guess I'm going to go fishing. Nothing, you will fail because no one else is going to step in. To kick your butt and to get things going. No one else is going to book your brides for you. And so you have to have drive. You have to be a self-starter. In a lot of ways, you have to be an entrepreneur. Like, if you're not, don't do it. Maybe this gets into talking to people, like asking friends and family if they think that you are a self-starter, if you have drive. My guess is if you do, you won't even need to wonder that question. If you're asking yourself that question, that might be a red flag that maybe it's not you. But I think it's crazy important.
No, if you want to be a successful business owner, no one's going to do it for you. You have to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, lastly, it's last on my list because it's second most important to having confidence. Is brand consistency. Your brand should already exist. and it should be consistent across all platforms. I'm talking platforms as in all of your social accounts should be consistent, your website should be consistent, your contract and your logos, and when clients come into your home, there should be consistency in everything that you do. Even, my gosh, one of the most, I see this all the time, a business email. People, get a business email. Stop emailing me at like fancy hands photography at gmail.com. Like,
Yeah.
like as soon as I get those, I'm immediately like, I can't take you seriously. And that brand consistency matters. Like, be fancy hands photography, or be info at fancyhandsphotography.com or something. But have consistency across your brand, and it will make so much difference. Your clients will recognize it. It will affect the perception that they have of you, and you'll actually be able to charge more because of it. When you go down the aisle and you're going to buy peanut butter, and you see crunchy peanut butter, and you see red button peanut butter, and then you see Jif. Jif is like $2 more, but you just grab it because you know it and you trust it. And it's the same thing with your brand. If you have consistency, you will book clients, and you'll be able to charge what you want to charge because they'll believe in you. So start now, and don't think that brand consistency starts once you go full-time.
Yeah. And you know, we don't have time to go into this too much, but that, speaking of brand consistency, the brand you come up with, the name you come up with, give that some thought. You know, if you're going to be, you know, if you name it a certain thing, you could lock yourself into a certain type of photography that you may not want to be locked into. Or you may, as your business grows, go, I wish I'd have named it something else, you know, and instead of Little Flower Pot or something, you know, whatever else you come up with, you know, maybe you love that name, but you got to think about where you want to take this, that business. And if you have to change it, it's going to be more difficult, because if you build up an audience under one, you know, and all the SEO and all the other things you go in under one name and have to change it, it does get difficult. It can be done, but give it some thought on the front end.
Yeah, absolutely. Really quick story on that.
Yeah.
Last year, we were Ben and Les Photography. Okay?
Yep.
This was a problem because we weren't just Ben and Les, and we didn't just do photography.
Yeah.
And so this became a nuisance because we had two other photographers who were full-time, and they were making amazing work, but then people would see it and they would think to yourselves, they would think, wow, Ben and Les did some really great stuff. And I'd be like, honored, but no, we didn't. And it was a problem. The second thing was we do video now as well. We're not just photography. We have a photo booth. We're not just photography. And so that is actually where Style and Story Creative came from, is it opened up freedom. We're not just Ben and Les for Style and Story. And now we're a creative company, not just photography. And it gives us now scalability for if we want to grow further, if we want to get into commercial work, if we want to go in a number of different avenues, we have that opportunity. So very wise point, Mike, that you just made. I totally agree, because I made the mistake in my career, and it was a pain. It was a really big pain.
And it's something to think about. And you know, it's not the end of the world if you don't, like you did. You were able to rebrand, but you, just like you said, you having that foresight in the beginning may be difficult. But if you could, you wish you would have named it differently to begin with. And that's something I think a lot of people have that problem. But give it some thought. You know, you may not come up with the absolute perfect name. But give it some thought, and don't change it all the time. You know, change it if you're going to change it for good reason, and then stick with that for a while. That brand, you think about all the famous brands you can think of in the world outside of photography. You know, Coke and Intel, the little swirl, and all those little things. You know, Apple, the little Apple thing. All these things you know of those companies. How often do they change those? You know, maybe at the beginning they changed them a lot, but they found something, they stuck with it, and now that symbol. If I showed you the symbol with no name on it, of probably 100 different symbols, you would say Coke, Apple, IBM, Intel. You know, you would know those right off the bat. So that brand is something that you want to build your marketing around.
Absolutely.
To go forward. All right, Ben, thank you for coming out, and we will have the links to your site on the post. We'll have the link to the new one, the Six Figure Photography, out there too. And
cool.
What, you're not ready for that yet?
No, no, no. I said
Okay.
cool.
Oh, okay. The hour went by. Wow, I can't believe how fast this went by, and I feel like there's a lot of stuff I held back on because I have a lot more questions. We'll have to have you back on another time to go over more. But if you haven't, go out to Ben's website, Six Figure Income, put in your email address there, and for him to notify you once they're ready, and get on that list, and then go to his page. We'll have the links for you, and go to his page and look at the photos. It's just amazing. Ben is also in our Facebook group. I don't know how often you're actually on Facebook in there, but he's in the Facebook group. What's the best way for people to contact you if they wanted to contact you?
Yeah, great question. So I guess it depends with what, but just general inquiries can go to our email, which can be found on our website at stylestorycreative.com. If you're interested more in like mentoring, that would be through sixfigurephotography.org. There'll be contact there as well. Yeah, Facebook's a tricky thing. Rarely do I messages and all that stuff. I try to just stick to my email as much as I can. So between the two of those, you'll be able to find me just fine.
Okay. Well, Ben, thank you for coming out. We do have a couple of things to go over here at the end. We have the photo challenge, and then we have a giveaway that we're doing. You're welcome to hang out with us and do this, or I've kept you past the hour. If you need to head out, that's fine too. But you're welcome to hang out with us. Either way you want to do it.
I'll chill for a little bit.
Okay. All right, so Tim, what are you getting ready
Just
on
getting
the?
ready.
It's not. We got to go through all of them yet. So we had the topic this month was emotion, and I got to say that all three images in their own way had a great deal of emotion. And I don't know how well you can see these Ben, but they're on our Facebook page also, and they'll be on our forums. The first one up is. Why don't you say the name? I got Eddie. You say the last name. I'll say first names. You say last names. Not Ben. Tim.
Sank Bell.
Okay. And this one,
close?
I have no idea. You know how bad I am with the names. We'll just say Eddie. And this is a gymnast who I imagine just finished a routine and is, maybe stuck the landing or whatever she did. You can tell that when I looked at it, I saw two emotions. I saw the emotion of the competitive spirit of the athlete who was just like, oh, just I got it done. And then I also like on the edge of I'm about to bust into tears too. That it's like the fight. Both of those emotions I saw in that image. I could be overreading it, but I saw that. I like that the crowd was there too. I like that the smoke of the chalk was in there. So. This was a great image. One of the ones I liked a lot.
I agree. This was really one of my favorite images. I mean, this was a split second before or after, and I think you would have missed the shot. It was just the perfect where she got the landing. At least that's what I'm assuming. She started the landing and had a perfect routine, and it all came out at that exact moment right there.
Yep. All right, next.
I mean, I like the fact that the background was blurry in it. That's what I liked. It's left her out there to herself, even though you knew exactly where she was.
Yep. Very good. Next up is Dean Stone. I got both those names, Tim. Dean Stone. And this was of an older gentleman with a white beard. Is our only black and white? No.
No,
we had two black and whites. I love the black and white conversion here. It did very well. There's still a lot, even though his beard is pretty white, there's still a lot of detail in the beard. You can see the age wrinkles on the face. The character in the face of this image, and just I think when you have a character in the face like that, you can read a lot in the face. So this was another one that one of the finalists that I really liked.
Yeah, and I like the lighting on this, and I think this is one just like the other black and white photo that if it had been in color, I think it would have lost a lot in the picture. This really benefited from a black and white exposure. It was a great shot.
Yeah. And, I think that we've talked about this a lot. The black and white sometimes boils it down just to the emotion of the image and gets out all the details that the color might distract you from. All right, last up is Brandon Baker, when this one is of a wedding. And I guess that's the father maybe talking there and the mother off to our right. You can definitely see the emotion in the bride who is looking at the mother or the father, I'm assuming, and then the mother's emotion. To me, and I and I'm going to say something about this image that is on the what I would have corrected. It doesn't mean that there's nothing to say about the others. It's just I'm going to point it out in this one. I would like to have seen it a little bit cropped to that person on the far right. They were either, I can see all of them or none of them. You know how it's cropped right down to her face?
I agree. I had my issue was the bottom right was very bright and overexposed and kind of drew your attention away. See, and I thought he was the groom. That was my assumption, and what he was saying to the bride was something of he looks a little too young to be the father. That's the only reason I said it. But the emotion there in her eyes says everything about the picture. You don't know what he's saying, but it's obvious it has struck a major chord with her. And
that's why I thought it was the dad.
See, and I don't know. He just looks too young. Maybe
but
the mom
doesn't look that old either. For me, I first looked at the blown out background and I thought, okay, yeah, we should have done something about that. But then as I looked at it more, I actually don't mind it. If I saw all the trees and all the stuff that's behind there, it might have been more distracting than having that blown out. So I'm okay with the blown out. The microphone in her face, if he could have come a little bit further over to the side, but I mean, it is what you got. So this one to me had a lot of emotion in it too, both from the mother and from the daughter. I'm assuming these are mother and daughter, but from those two people.
Well, and also this is another one where if it had been done in color, you would have lost the entire picture.
Absolutely. All right, so now we got a winner, and again this month it was very, very close. We do these in categories. Like I said, I think there's 5 categories we rate these on. They all did really well on one of the categories, which is emotion. They all did really well on the other, how they followed the theme. But ultimately, we had a winner. And now, are you ready for the drum roll, Tim?
I'm ready. With exclamation drum. Hold on. There's a drum.
The winner of the May 2014 Photo Challenge is Eddie with this image. Congratulations, Eddie. Great image. And look for next month. We'll have, I think the next one is composite images.
Composites,
yes. Which is going to be a little difficult for some people.
After watching that last week, yeah. Good luck.
That's going to be a little difficult for some people. But the good news is, if I can pull it up here, is we did a giveaway with Mark Johnson from a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. Mark Johnson. We're doing a giveaway with him where if you went to our forums, and we posted this for a number of days, went into forums and you posted the little simple thing you had to do was come in here and make one post in the forums and then respond to this thing I'm showing here, this post here, and you would be in the drawing to win the Mark Johnson video series on composites. And if you watched him live, he's amazing, and this video series will be even better because it'll be a screen capture where it's really good quality. So we had 4 people. 4 people enter. So not very many people entered that thing. So Tim, pick a number between 1 and 4.
3.
3. Guess what? We're going to do something a little different. We're going to actually buy one for all 4 people. All 4 people.
That was the number I meant. I meant 1 through 4.
All 4 people are going to win. So this, only 4. I can't do this if 100 people signed up because we are going to have to buy these. But with only 4 of them doing there, I don't want to pick a single winner. You never know when this might happen, so that's why you got to sign up. All 4 are going to win for this month, and we're doing another giveaway with Mark on his the subscription to his page. So look at that coming. And then we have one with Mike Wren, if he's still out there in chat. We still got to give away 2 of the Photosmith apps for the iPad. So those will be coming very soon. You won't have to do the post here like I did for this. It'll be another way where you'll be tweeting out to Mike. But be looking for that coming up soon. And if you're not in the forums, which is what that was encouraged to get you to do, to go out to the forums and post, go out there. There's more and more data all the time, and be looking for more information to come that way. Now, the 4 people who are in there, if you go in there and run out there right now and sign up, no, it's limited to those first 4. I'm not going to give it to 100 people. Limited to those first 4. But, congratulations to all 4 of those.
Congrats, everybody.
Well, we've run a little bit long. Ben, thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for coming back on again. And it was very nice to see you. Good luck with the delivery that's coming up in a few months from now.
Get your rest now.
Yep. Get your rest now.
It's like me. I got 120 days to get stuff done. Work hard.
Yeah, well, we talked
worry,
about
the first 6 to 8 months they barely move. It's when they get to my daughter's age of a year and 10 months. Oh my goodness gracious, she doesn't stop.
Yeah. Tell Les. Tell Les that we hope she has a great delivery, healthy delivery for both mama and baby, and that everything goes well for you guys.
I appreciate it, Mike. Thanks, guys.
All right.
All right, everybody. Actually, we're going to take next week off. So until next show, keep it raw. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right, Tim. Thanks, Mike. Bye.